The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you enjoy our work, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow the links in the description. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
America and America. It is I, America, joined as always by America. And this is America. Today's theme, Mexico.
Look, alright, in honor of a National American Explosion Day, we decided that America would be the topic of today's podcast. Now, that's kind of a big topic, so we needed to narrow it down.
Basically, when we think of America, what pop culture evokes from that? For us personally.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those ones, like the favorite video game songs one and all that. They're very personal lists. They're very, very opinion-based. And honestly, it's probably not going to be the same for you, listener, as it is for us. And if so, leave a comment. Talk about what when you think America, what that brings to mind for you.
As much as I enjoyed the joke, I'm Eric J. Chucci, that's the boy.
Hey.
Every podcast is someone's first. Maybe they saw the title card for this one and were just like, all right, what's up? I want them to know who we are and what we stand for. This is the Two Nerds Podcast. We're talking about America.
Yep.
So, you were actually the one who came up with this idea.
Yeah, today is, National America Explosion Day, and you asked me what we should podcast about, because he had actually a really good idea that I couldn't meet him on. I couldn't come up with enough of an answer for it to make it worth our time.
And if I'm doing it alone, I'm going to have to do it big.
So, so he asked me, he was like, all right, cool. Well, I was almost done with my day job, and he sent me a text. He was like, podcast. My immediate response, there was literally no thought, was America. Because of the day. Then he said he liked it and asked what about America. And something came to my mind, and it kind of gave me a direction to take the podcast in. When he said, what about America? Two things popped into my head immediately. Again, no thought involved. And it wasn't like these were things that were already in my head and already, heard them that day or whatever. No, two songs. Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky and War by, hold on. I had this, Edwin Starr. I had it looked up because I couldn't remember that one. Those two songs specifically, when I think America, that's apparently the first thing that comes into my brain.
Good old classic rock. Yeah,
just classic 70s rock.
Mm-hmm.
Late 60s, early 70s, because I don't actually know when either of those songs came out.
Early 80s as well.
1970 for War, and Spirit in the Sky was...
60s rock and roll was a lot more, it was a lot different. It was a lot happier. It was a lot, sadder. There wasn't that middle ground of awesome.
1969. Mm-hmm. So, the very late 60s, very early 70s.
War was on the angrier side, the sad side. Plus, there was a huge British invasion going on.
And Spirit in the Sky was, if you listen to that song, it's actually fucking really cynical and mean.
Well, yeah.
But nobody actually thinks of, the people alright, this is going to be me being kind of an elitist dickweed. So, brace yourself as for, standard operating procedure here on the Two Nerds Podcast. The people I grew up with in, the place where I grew up didn't see it that way. They just sort of heard the actual surface of the song and were like, yeah, Jisoo is great. I'm not joking. That's literally, that was the interpretation.
They called him Jisoo and everything?
Well, I mean, a couple of them, yeah. But and it wasn't until later in life when I really, was listening to music a little more analytically, when I listened to lyrics, I was like, he's taking the piss, isn't he? And he is. He's completely fucking taking the piss.
But in a friendly way.
Yeah. And I honestly don't know why. When I thought, alright, what does America mean to me? That was literally the first thing that came to my brain. It was no thought, it was an immediate gut reaction, and I'm not really even sure why, but for some reason, late 60s, early 70s rock and roll really embodies that spirit for me, like the American spirit.
Well, I mean, we're talking about a time of, if I can get serious for a moment, we're talking about a time of,
I'm gonna give you that one, but like,
alright, that's fair. Of spirit, of the embodiment of, maybe not the American dream as it is usually written, but it was the new Wild West, when bikers were big, when it was all about just going across the country.
I think that's what it is. I think you're entirely right.
Yeah, living your life and being you. It's the freedom that America embodies more than the struggle. It was the Wild West without the hardship. Not saying the 60s and 70s weren't hard. Good God, they were.
They weren't Wild West hard. Let's be honest.
But
cars existed.
Like, you can look back, every era, when you look back and you have your nostalgia, the most of the 70s nostalgia you're looking back on is like, God, everything was free. Everything was cheap. Everybody could do whatever the hell they wanted to do, and it was just whatever, man. Everyone was having a good time. Not fucking true, but through the rose-colored glasses, that's what you see. It's perhaps telling that when we look back on the 90s, we see cartoons. These cartoons were real good.
It was a good time for cartoons.
And music.
I think you're actually right. I think you're more right than you think. Because I mentioned before the podcast.
I'm pretty sure I know exactly how right I think I am.
Okay, no, I want to loop back around to this. I mentioned before the podcast that while music, it was really, really easy for me. Like, hey, what does America mean to you? Late 60s, early 70s rock and roll. Music was easy. TV, movies, those are a lot harder. A lot. And I didn't understand why, really. I was kind of having trouble pinning it down. I only had a couple things spring to mind, and they didn't seem like good answers. But they all are things that embody that spirit. They're all things that embody the spirit of freedom, of the ability to make what you will of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're optimistic or pessimistic, that is kind of the central premise behind all the stuff that came to my brain.
Yeah.
And I guess that is what America means to me. Like, it always has been.
That's deep.
Yeah, like, way deeper than I expected. What did you think about
I live in nerd culture. Like, as you are so often fond of saying, we exist in America, but
we live on the internet.
We live on the internet. So, like, immediately my brain was like, what do I like about America? Anime. No, buddy, it's not America. You're right, I'm sorry. JRPGs. Try again.
Weeaboo.
And of all the things I enjoyed, those happened to be the first two that came to my mind. But I think like the most American stuff to me usually ties back to pro wrestling, for better or ill. There are icons of my childhood and of today who,
for good or ill,
are America. There's that graphic, I think it was from one of his entrance videos, of Hulk Hogan in the red and yellow not playing guitar in front of an American flag, and I'm just like, that's pretty much America.
Yeah, that sums it up right there.
John Cena, as much as I'm not a fan of his in general, except for now that he fights the demon AJ Styles.
The enemy of my enemy.
Shit. He's pretty much America. He tries his best. He smiles. He's a triangle. America's a triangle.
Not a triangle at
all. Look at your geography maps.
That's a fucked up triangle.
Yeah. Well, so's John Cena. He's got them arms and legs and shit. And sometimes he does some things that aren't so good. Maybe he shouldn't do. But he does what he thinks is best. And I think that's America in a nutshell. Does what it thinks is best. But without the cynicism, I mean, I agree with you entirely. Musically, that's something that's very iconic to the U.S. I mean, there's a lot of musical genres that were born here or got popular here.
But they don't feel like here.
Sure. Well, I mean, and you're not going to find a lot of the places outside of Britain that make that kind of music. And even then, British classic rock compared to American classic rock are different beasts.
Yeah, like the Yardbirds is a very different beast than, fucking the songs I was mentioning before.
Sure, and when you want to compare, the Rolling Stones even to ZZ Top, they're similar, but there's a difference.
And it's really easy to hear.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Beyond the accents of the singers, there's a difference musically.
Well, and you can very rarely hear those accents unless it's like...
Dude, you can hear the ZZ Top singers' accents.
Well, yeah, I suppose I wasn't thinking of it that way. I was thinking of the English accents, but,
English people, when they sing, usually, if they don't end up super British, end up kind of neutral American. But American people, when they sing, turn up whatever accent they do have 1 billion%.
That's, it's sometimes that is the case. When you were mentioning TV, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast. You were talking about sitcoms in general feel more British to you.
They just do. They feel more like the formula feels kind of British in general to me, because there's inherently a lot of British style, very pretty mundane and ultimately derived from the failings from normal people's failings, just played up, that is sort of central to things like the original Coupling and like EastEnders and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Blackadder, that sort of thing. Sorry, my brain just keeps coming up with British shows. And even the seminal hallmark American sitcoms like Friends, the humor there it doesn't feel like it's indicative of us as a culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Friends is the 90s zeitgeist, and early 2000s as well. But, it's not, give those guys funny accents and they can come from anywhere. It's like we were just saying about rock music. I don't think that was a point you finished. Not a lot of other places do classic rock like that. Not a lot of other places do classic rock anymore, period. But musically speaking, even at the time, there weren't a lot of other big acts that did classic rock in that style. Back when it wasn't classic yet. Different parts of the world have different kinds of music, different interpretations of rock and roll. Black metal lives in Europe.
Yeah, black metal lives in Europe.
In all variations, black metal, death metal, so on and so forth. Prog rock is like almost exclusively Canada and England. But that specific style, and even grunge, which was born here, didn't, it's not exclusive to just America. Ironic, because it also embodies a lot of that same, grit, grime, and freedom that the 70s classic rock is indicative of. To that extent, as we were saying, TV shows, drop Friends anywhere else, put them in a funny accent, it's fine. The exception, I feel, is Roseanne, which is so American that, like, if you were to put those same characters in a different country, you'd have to change the tropes.
Roseanne is American in the same way most slice of life anime is Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
You can't translate it. You can't. The jokes don't translate. Like, there's a reason that when they translate a lot of slice of life anime into English, even like subtitle translation, it's not a direct translation. A lot of the jokes get changed. A lot of the beats change. They have to change entire dialogue around because the dialogue is based around a really obscure pun that only works in Japanese.
Not as much anymore in the Crunchyroll world, but up until Crunchyroll, yes.
So they would translate it. They would move it around. They would change it because it doesn't work. Like, I don't like the show, either the Japanese version or the dubbed version or the sub version, just so we're all clear. I don't like this show. But Shin-Chan, had a bunch of shit change when they brought it over to the US. Not just because of its content, although it was partially because of its content, but partially because the jokes just did not fucking work to an American audience because they didn't have the cultural references for them to work.
Well, and even like Pokemon, Wobbuffet is based on a very famous Japanese comedian.
Who,
and
like a very, very famous Japanese comedian who, if you're from Japan or spent really any time there, or are complete fucking weeb nerds like us, you know this person. But
well, I don't know him, but I get it.
Oh, but you've seen him. You know who he is.
So, like, yeah, there's little things like that you just don't fucking know about. And they do their best, especially, a lot of the higher end places like Nintendo or whatever. They do their best to keep things up in translation. But, Roseanne is like that to the rest of the world. You're going to have to change shit. It's so lower middle class, middle America in the 90s that you can't really divorce it from.
Oh, actually, you know what? I think you may have accidentally finish your point.
You can't really divorce it from its origin.
You may have accidentally stumbled upon part of the reason that this came to me so instantly. We recently watched a movie that, now I'm thinking about it, really kind of very much feels like its era, but also its era in America to me. We watched it like last night, The Forsaken. It's a vampire movie that I hadn't seen. Everyone loves, apparently.
Well, I don't know about that, honestly. It was a Canadian film.
Was it Canadian?
Yes.
It really feels American. That's very interesting.
Partially funded by Nickelback. Because like 5 of their songs are on the...
Huh.
I'm going off of shit that I read on IMDb some 8 years ago, so forgive me if I'm incorrect.
Now, see, that's something very interesting, because that movie feels very America in the 90s.
Yeah, it was American Southwest set. And the movie came out in about 2001. 2001.
Good job, Canada. You really captured the spirit of your the better nation that lives slightly south from you. Hey, Canada's America's hat. I am on the record for that.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, they know I'm just memeing them.
Hey, Canada, you had your Canada Day a couple days ago. We love you too. We just don't know as much about you. And I don't care for poutine. So,
like, a Canada podcast would mostly just be us be like, they're polite and like donuts and poutine, right?
Yeah, whatever, man. Timmy's
Moose
good.
are huge, I guess.
We're gonna get a Timmy's in our local town soon.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And yes, I know it's the sad American Tim Hortons that isn't as good. Shut up! I don't live in Canada. I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, I'm not going across the fucking lake to get fucking Tim Hortons. The Forsaken is very much a product of its time, the late 90s, early 2000s.
And that sort of archetypal resonance is what I'm talking about when I say feels like it's American.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think most people, when they're like, describe America, they see like a fucking flag waving in a background and like some guns going off and a bald eagle wearing an America vest and maybe an America hat.
Trucker.
Swooping in from off screen is a static image. And there's a generic eagle screech. That's America. And probably the word fuck is on there somewhere,
So, like Team America World Police, is you think what everyone sees?
I think Team America World Police didn't do it honest enough.
Like, you think there was too much cynicism?
Too much cynicism. I didn't care for that film.
No, I didn't. No, let's be clear. I didn't like that film either.
Well, and America Fuck Yeah is a good enough song.
America Fuck Yeah is a great song.
I think it's a little overused, especially in reviewer culture. But...
Well, I mean, look, if you make the ultimate best version of a specific joke...
yeah,
they nailed it. You can't... They nailed it.
I don't disagree, but it's like, it's Bush League at this point. It's so tropey that we need some reinvention.
You think it's gone the way of trying to take over the world? Of course.
Sure, or yakety sax, or the fucking...
The fucking wah-wah tuba.
Yeah, it's... Come on, guys. There's other shit out there you can steal from. Trust me, I do it all the time.
Another movie. I'm literally just looking at a list.
Just looking at movies.
This is the AFI 100 top 100 movies of the last. Just top 100 movies. And there's one on here that I think really feels like America to me, and that's Forrest Gump. And
Okay,
I
yeah.
might not be super fond of that movie. Don't get me wrong, I like it. It's okay. But it's clearly going for that.
Well,
It clearly is meant to feel like just a big slice of America for you to break off and chew on for a while.
In that vein, Gangs of New York.
Yeah. Like a very specific kind of America, a very specific time, but it feels very honest.
Yeah, and it was such a uniquely American situation, given the way things were at the time. There's a lot of other places that have had refugee influx and gang violence and such, but there was so much going on in the period that work was set that it's just a nexus of shit that you'd be unfortunately pressed to create again.
Yeah, and there's some westerns that feel that way for their time frame, but they feel more like westerns.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that was made in America that doesn't really it feels like it's. You mentioned Disney before the podcast.
I did.
Disney is the same way. Disney's a very American company. They're very American. They make American versions of other people's stories and then make billions off them and copyright them. Ha 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 ha. Because that's America, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't feel like it feels like Disney.
Yeah, Disney is an island unto itself.
They are their own culture. They are their own little micronation.
Mm-hmm. And that's I was checking something because I thought this was the case, but I love cyberpunk and I hate cyberpunk.
Okay.
Fuck it. I'll go into it a little bit here. I love the aesthetics of cyberpunk. I love the 80s dystopian future visions. I am less fond of hacking the World Wide Webiverse and a lot of the try-hardy shit that goes on in cyberpunk.
See, I can never hate that because I know you also saw it as a young man. I grew up on the movie Hackers.
I love Hackers.
And that is to me that's a Decker.
Sure.
I'm going to attack their Gibson and it's going to be great and I'm going to have a skateboard and it's going to be amazing.
I mean that's there's a line.
The important part of that is that's the part of cyberpunk that you cannot take seriously.
Sure, and I think it's when people start taking that part of cyberpunk too seriously, or when everyone is fucking, Neo and Wolverine.
Look, tryhards can ruin everything.
Yeah. And there's a little section of cyberpunk that can get really tryhard, and I don't like that.
It's the section that became the Matrix.
Yeah. Which I was okay with the first Matrix film. But
the first Matrix film is a fucking work of art. It's a really good movie.
It's taking that concept too far.
Which is the Matrix 2 and 3.
I'm talking about worse than that, honestly.
I know. I've seen these people.
There's a reason I'm not a fan of, son of a bitch, the name of this game always escapes me. Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Shadowrun.
I was gonna ruin your day by going Chicken Run. You're just watching
Chicken Run. You are correct. That is the worst pen and paper RPG. Chicken Run. Not a huge fan of Shadowrun because I knew enough people who were into Shadowrun that took it way too fucking seriously, using the stupid ass slang in the real world all the time.
I mean, that's just you. You just don't like people who try and be cool. No, I don't either, to be fair. But that's just backlash from overhearing a phrase.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
But it's the first thing. That's not a game you're supposed to take seriously.
Right.
That's not.
Unless you're taking it seriously, and then they take the serious part seriously. You know what I mean? When we play D&D, trust me, this is all going to loop back into America in a second. When we play D&D,
I don't know how either. I'm just I'm on for the ride here with you, listener.
I know what I'm doing here, motherfucker. We play in D&D, we tend to goof off, okay? But there are moments within the game that we take shit really seriously. If we weren't all funny people, and I say that with no ego, all of us at one point or another have looked at one another and gone, I forgot that I was funny because the boy and I and my wife are used to trading mad bants with each other.
Because that's how we communicate as people.
but we don't laugh a lot.
Because we're all pretty well immune to bans at this point, because we've been chess match fighting with them for a decade.
Yeah, the goal is to get the other guy to laugh and you don't laugh. That's how the magic works. And we've all heard a lot of jokes. We inundate ourselves with comedy. To the point that when we go out there in the regular world and talk to regular people and we make some sort of offhanded, mundane-ass comment, they crack up and die and we're like, what did I do?
Hold on, wait, this wasn't even me trying.
Do I have sorcery? So, we are funny people. We forget that we're funny people. And we all don't take things seriously all the time.
I don't think any of us are, like, broken and sad enough inside to be stand-up comics, though.
I might be too broken and sad to be a stand-up
There's a specific
There's
good
a
range
spot,
of, like, trauma and then ability to self-efface about it that none of us really hit.
But
so we're, like, funny people.
Yeah.
Not professionally funny people. Well, I guess...
Well,
suppose we are making a podcast that is ostensibly about entertainment, so...
Yeah, but they don't give me the YouTube pennies anymore.
It's true, it's true. We're pure now. We're like amateur wrestlers.
Yeah. I haven't sold out. But you can assist with that if you would donate to my Patreon.
Yeah, we're happy to sell out, and we'd like to sell out to you directly because we care about you, listener.
Yeah.
See, I made a pitch.
I like that. Good job. But I've also heard D&D games that are completely serious and legit, and they're not bad. It's not like try hard serious.
I don't think I could take that.
At this point in my life,
I think I would be the jackass who was ruining for
Yeah, at this point in my life, I'm not sure I could take it for very long either. I'd try, but I would fail in the end.
So, how are you going to loop us back around? I'm interested.
All right, well, here's a funny fucking thing, okay? I went on my little tangent there, but D&D, as well as Cyberpunk, concepts made in America.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah. I was looking up the biggest Cyberpunk authors, and I can go on a list of them, but Philip K. Dick.
You don't really need the rest of the list.
No, ma'am. That guy's American as anyone else born in Chicago.
Yeah, it's hard to get more American than Chicago.
Well, and most of Cyberpunk is that American 1980s aesthetic in a dystopian future. And I love that shit. I love the visuals. I love a lot of the ideas. Ironic, because one of my favorite Cyberpunk settings was created by a Scotsman, but,
Which, is one of my least favorite Cyberpunk settings, but I think that's mostly the fault of...
the rules and the bad DMs.
Not even bad DMs. It's the rules. I don't like the rules.
No, I'm going to translate them to something else at some point. I wish I could publish that, but that's stealing. So
you're not allowed to publish stealing. Sorry.
We'll enjoy it in our own homes. I guess I could give it away for free. Comment if you want a free copy of the rules when I finish them in 2018. Not a hard date. Yeah, that's like one of my favorite things about music. And I didn't even understand how much into Cyberpunk I was until I got turned on to the artist Signe Pierce recently. That's Signe, Pierce as in stab. I guess I didn't really understand that was this aesthetic I had, but like there is an entire class of music that I reserved for this is music you drive to at night.
Yeah, you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something I noticed a couple years ago. It's not just that, by the way. You genreize a lot of different kinds of music subconsciously.
But music you drive to at night, especially when there are lights on, like neon lights. I love the look of that. I love the pink and the blue, the classic neon colors. It just makes me giddy. And I didn't connect it to Cyberpunk so hard until like within the last couple of years. Hotline Miami was another big clue into that. And it's super American. It's the opposite of what your brain was immediately drawn to when you thought about America. You were like, yeah, freedom and
freedom and natural and like brown tones and like the sun.
Yeah.
When I think America, I swear to God, this is the most ridiculous try-hard douchebag answer, and I feel like a tit for saying it. But when I think of America, I think of a guy on a motorcycle alone on an open road. That's the easiest way to explain it.
Same, honestly. But what I like the most about America is when it's kind of shitty. I like a back alley in the red light district. Not necessarily anything bad happening, but maybe a pimp is talking to a drug dealer about their days.
And both of those are very, very American.
Yeah. It's a beautiful little fucked up place we live in.
Exist in.
Exist
I'd
in.
still say I live on the internet.
Yeah,
I pay taxes here because they make me.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to because I get stuff in return. But I live on the internet.
Yeah. Which is great because it means we get to hang out with you, listener.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And everything's better when nerds talk about it. Oh yeah, that's right. It was a terrible segue, and you have to live with it now because I said it.
No.
Fuck it, let's get hardcore! Blood, pain, we're all insane. Suffer head trauma, destroy